Okay, I'd like to start with the rebuttal, which will include a lot of my points and not a lot of my points. So the last thing we really heard from closing government is that the narrative right now is Israel at fault, and that will necessarily change when Israel will remove its siege over Gaza. We don't see why that's actually likely at all. If people in Gaza see that Israel is losing and Israel is giving them negotiation powers and giving them leeway, they're actually much more likely to view Israel as either one, weak and then attack Israel, or two, totally forgot. I'm gonna go move over to my second point of rebuttal. The second thing that we get is that all of a sudden businesses will be prioritized, and we absolutely disagree. If Gaza and people in Hamas see that they went through using terrorism, they will likely continue with these same mechanisms of terrorism that caused the siege to be removed in the first place. This is exactly why we do not negotiate with terrorists. This is a policy that the United States has, this is a policy Canada has, this is a policy the EU has, because the only thing that it does is validates their mechanisms and validates the things that they use and validates terrorism globally and actually gives power to terrorist groups. I'll get you after. One of the last things I want to say is why it's likely that there will be an attack afterwards and Israel will not just purely defend itself. This is reliant on the analysis that first opposition made. Basically what happens when the siege gets removed is Israelis feel more afraid. What causes Israelis to feel more afraid is there's less of a physical barrier and there's more of opportunities for Gazans to get things like cement and helium, which they have used for terrorism before. This is exactly why Israel, which is stronger, I think everybody in the room recognizes that, will strike preliminarily and rather than choose to defend itself and put itself in the weaker position. Also, we get a lot of analysis about why people can't get out and merge can't go out, and we see that as actually an opportunity for Gaza to develop locally rather than wait for Israel, who is painted as this like evil colonial power, to get out, and everything will now all of a sudden be okay, while Gaza has not developed locally at all over the past years.
In our worst case scenario, we offer less dead babies that suffer from malnutrition and lack of medicine. In your best case scenario, you offer the status quo. The people of Israel feel a bit more insecure for actions that are already happening. Hamas is building tunnels as we speak.
We are absolutely not offering the status quo. We're actually showing you while taking away the siege will make situations worse. What will happen if you validate Hamas's power and Hamas's terrorism is that they will continue with this terrorism that continues making Gaza impoverished and killing people in Gaza. The reason that Gaza is impoverished now, the reason that there's so much horrible things happening in Gaza, there's so many human rights abuses, it's not because of Israel. It's because the money that Gaza gets and all the resources that Gaza gets, like cement, which they could have used to building roads, they use for terrorism, they use for building tunnels, they use against their own citizens. What will happen when the siege is removed is Hamas gets a win. When Hamas gets a win, that actually increases violence. It validates violence. It validates the violence that removed the siege in the first place. This also validates Hamas internationally and validates terrorist tactics internationally. When Israel attacks the region, which will likely happen because of this feeling of insecurity, it will also probably cause more deaths than are currently happening now. And what will happen when the siege is removed? Israel is off the hook, basically. It gives internationally, it's so criticized right now for the siege, that when it removes itself, it suddenly does not need to do anything. It does not need to provide Gaza with the electricity that it now provides and the funds that it now provides and the water. It can step away and say, you win. And this actually causes a lot of harm to Gaza on the short term. They will not get electricity. They will not get money from Israel. They will not get water from Israel. This is what will cause the death and destruction that you describe on the short term. And we also wanted to say one of our points was the peace process is actually happening with the siege in place. Israel is creating relationships with Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. And actually the worst thing to do for Gaza internationally is taking away its underdog power that it currently has because of the siege, which will simply make it irrelevant in the international system. Yes.
Gaza's population is looking for a weak point in Israel in order to achieve their goal right now, independency. No analysis at all on why tomorrow, when they already have it, they're going to still look for weaknesses in order for actually improving their life.
The only way that Gazans will improve their life is for them to develop locally, which they have not done and they will not continue to do while the siege is improved. The only way for Gazans to improve is for Hamas to be out of power, which will only be strengthened after the siege is removed. And the only way for Gaza to improve their lives locally is to continue with the peace processes that Israel is currently pursuing with Arab countries. We do not see how, in your case, Gazans' life are better in the short term or the long term. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, member, for the opposition, and I'm happy to call the government whip to sum up the government's debate.